the increment will be added.
It's part of the properly set.
That's correct. Properly set.
Right, but
It's not properly set.
you already
That's
got
why
to make
that's
sure
why
that
it's not.
Or in the alternative, if White was dumb enough to bring a mechanical clock to an increment tournament,
He gets
so
reserved.
what?
at
That's
the beginning of the game, 30 seconds.
The penalty for bringing a mechanical clock is you don't get increment on the first move.
Okay. Anyway, I'm withdrawing the motion because it's already passed. My
Okay, I like your wording. It's a lot shorter than Steve's.
Yeah. Okay. All right, back to
Arriving late, he just sits down, makes a move, punches the clock.
ADM. Add to Rule 15A. I was really surprised this wasn't already in the rule book, because I thought it was. The score sheet shall be visible to the arbiter, tournament directors, and the opponent throughout the game. Okay, the rationale behind this is there was an incident of cheating where a person was covering up his electronic score sheet to hide the fact that he wasn't using the electronic score sheet, he was using Pocket Fritz. The entire history of it is that the pro player showed his Pocket PC to the tournament director at the start of the event, verified that he indeed had the program, the approved program on it, but then proceeded not to use it. He was using something else. This is not a problem with the electronic scoring in itself. It's a problem with blatant cheating. And that's the way the ethics committee ruled, and so on. Okay, so let's start with our discussion. Yes.
I disagree with that statement that it's not a problem with electronic scorekeeping. I have to confess that I really dislike approval of Monroy, and I just found out that we have yet another electronic scorekeeping device type allowed, and that it's not a dedicated device. This is an incredible invitation to cheating, and this
That's
rule
how
was-
this one was used.
What?
The e-notate.
Right, I know,
Yeah.
I know. You know, the fact that e-notate
Well, hold
runs
on.
on a generic kind of electronic device is not a good idea.
That's
And
not
this
the
just-
that's not the issue here.
I understand.
Yeah.
The issue here is, well, okay,
Is
this is a
detection.
Band-Aid
It's
on a
detect-
bigger issue. And this is not a very good Band-Aid for that issue.
It's a detection. If the score sheet is visible on the table, the director can take a glance at it and see what programs run.
Okay, fine. I routinely run tournaments where the player to TD ratio is 40 or 50 to 1.
Yeah.
And
So you have a lot of TDs at the tournaments you run.
Yeah.
no, I said the player to TD ratio is 40 or 50 to 1.
That's a lot.
Yes, so from my point of view, you have a lot of TDs at the tournaments.
Yes.
Good point. And I think we really need to put the brakes on electronic scorekeeping devices and maybe even retrace our steps a little bit. I think this is a bad Band-Aid on a big issue. That's what I think.
Back to the room first. Yes.
So this is just going back to the original intent of this rule change. There are a lot of what do you call it, score booklets that are used on the paper side, where making this rule requirement would actually invalidate the whole rule book, score book. They would have to throw it away because you can't use it.
The hardbound scorebook.
That's right. So I mean, would you accept this as an amendment, just the word electronic added
No.
to this?
No.
Because in essence, when
Because you can be taking notes in your fold-up score sheet,
Or you can have a complete or analyzed game in your.
or you can
in your
have a
book.
complete analyzed game in it. That's correct.
Which is a problem with Monroy, by the way. It's a database sitting next to you.
That's an uninformed and uneducated comments. Then you don't know how Monroy works.
Oh yeah.
Nothing-
and
nothing
it
personal.
can't be tampered with.
I didn't say it can't be, but
Can.
make the comments appropriate.
Thank you, Ken. I think if we want to talk about electronic score sheets, we should have a motion that has something to do with electronic score sheets. The motion here simply says, make the score sheet visible. I think it's a perfectly reasonable, innocuous motion. I think it has good effects. I think we should deal with the motion, and then if somebody wants to open a discussion of what's right and wrong with electronic score sheets, we can talk about that.
That's a separate issue. Yes. Tim.
I'm just concerned with wording here. Let me think like a bad guy who wants to make your life miserable.
all right? The score sheet shall be visible. Hey, my opponent covered up his move. That score sheet's not visible.
Wait, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
The score sheet's visible.
well, I
The score
understand.
sheet's not
Could we throw in like a TD tip saying that, so just to avoid those Nimrod kind of
I
things?
put my pen down on my score sheet. Yeah, it might be covering up a move, big deal.
I understand.
It's always
I understand, but do the players understand, and do we want to get rid of the player who wants to be out there in left field playing by himself
Yeah.
from even going down that road?
Well, I mean, some people still, even though they're not supposed to anymore, will write a move down, then they will cover it up with their pen or pencil
Yeah, it's,
before making it on the board.
Yes,
Why are they not
Which is
supposed
against
to?
the rules, by the way.
I know that.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
well,
it is.
it's a variation that nobody announces.
Variation.
It can be a variation that you don't have to announce, and so it kind of skirts the original rule, which is exactly, you
Well,
gotta
the
do
reason they
it.
do that is they're not sure if they wanna make that move or not.
Yeah,
If
well,
they decide they wanna make another move, then they change it.
Well, and that's taking notes. And it's
That's-
definitely
that's-
against the rules in Rule 20.
Taking notes,
That's taking notes. Okay, I write down a move. I'm thinking about it. I sit there and think about it for a while. Okay, I'm thinking of some other move. What was I thinking about to begin with? Oh, yes, that's taking notes. Not only that, they cross out a move, put a line through it, write down another move. Think about that one for a while. What was I originally
what's wrong
thinking
with
about?
taking notes in your game to study afterwards? I don't understand.
No,
That's against the
you
rules.
are not allowed to take
You are
notes
not allowed to
during
take
the...
notes. The only thing you're
Why
allowed
don't
to
you
put on
just
your
write
spreadsheet is-
down the
is
entire
the
six
move
move
that's not in the
combination?
time.
You know?
Can you do that? Thank you. That would help me a lot.
Better yet, bring your laptop with all of your variations in
Have one
it.
of them disguised in electronic scoreboard, and be sitting there playing, using the computer to play the opponent, and the opponent wouldn't even know it.
Well, okay.
That's what we're trying
That's a
to
different
avoid.
issue. Yes, Ken. That Ken. Yeah,
PDA seems to have done just fine with this rule in force.
yes, they have. Yes.
You know, the rationale for this rule is the electronic
It's part of the
cheating.
rationale, yes.
Okay, so it's a little bit disingenuous to say we can't talk about electronic score sheets when that's the rationale for this rule change, I think.
All right.
One practice,
That's just an example, yes.
one of the other things that having it visible does is it gives, particularly, I'm thinking about big scholastic events, if this rule's in effect for it, it gives you the ammunition if you're on the floor to say, no, you can't pick that up, take it to the bathroom. Because you have people say, I don't want to leave it laying on the table because it might disappear, and it's like, well, that's just too damn bad. It needs to stay on the table because you can't take it to the bathroom. And that's an issue. I mean, that comes up with paper score sheets.
And the other thing in scholastics, the kids routinely will write their move in their book, and when they get up and go to the bathroom, they put their pen in like that and just close
Yeah.
their book and go to the bathroom. It happens all the time.
Yeah, it happens all the time, and it shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Isn't it in the rules now regarding electronic score sheets that they have to remain at the table? You cannot take them with you? I thought it was already in there.
No.
I don't think...
They're in the FIDE rules, but I don't think they're in ours.
I could have.
I'd have to look
It's
at
in
it.
the
I don't know.
regulation.
Having a scholastic
Appendix F.
Yeah, that could be.
I don't know, I'd have to look it up.
Savon, we have it in the
I don't-
National Scholastic
I know
Chess
it's in.
Tournament.
I could swear it was in the regular rules as well.
Rules that have
I don't
thrown
think
out.
so.
I don't think
Well,
so.
Maybe that shouldn't be that.
Just
Okay.
post your
Well,
variations at
this
the
will
start
come
of the tournament,
close
you
to
run the
close
tournament
to
the way you want.
Okay.
That's
That's
rule
true.
one.
So, all right, any further discussion? Yes.
Yes, I want to kind of ask for clarification here. I mean, it's a relatively common discussion when it's
Surprised how well these kids know the
like a dual time control event or event where it has the first time control. And opponent of a person who's in time trouble, you know, that opponent who's keeping score to would hide the score sheet like under the board or anywhere so that their opponent would know how many moves have been made. So is this rule, you know,
That
Yes.
rule would
No,
stop
stop
that
that.
practice.
That's another rationale for.
That's another rationale for the rule. Okay. In favor of, okay. Any other questions? Any other comment? Okay, all those in favor? 19. All opposed? 0.
What was the discussion about?
Okay.
In the committee rule 0 to 6, no.
The committee was citizens. Okay.
You're funny.
All right, so that takes care of that one.
So now can we discuss whether or not 1235 goes far enough in defending against people who are trying to cheat with electronic devices?
I would like to bring in the conversation you guys had in Scholastic meeting, because I didn't get to hear all of it, but I think you guys discussed it at some length there.
Yeah.
And talked about, and that discussion probably needs to be transferred into this committee, I would think.
Okay.
And you know, you two guys, Mike and Tom, were chairing that meeting, so.
Okay, all right.
I think the fundamental problem, well, I'm not fond of Monroy, but okay, that cat's out of the bag. The fundamental problem is a multifunctional device being used as a score sheet. This is asking for problems. We have lots of clever young people out there. We are, if e-notape is allowed, I'm sure sometime in the near future we're going to have another one, and then another one, and then another one, and our tournament directors are going to have to be able to recognize multiple different apps on multiple different devices to be able to tell, is this allowed, is this not allowed? We are going in the wrong direction in terms of limiting cheating if we're headed in that direction.
There is a proposal by the office, by Bill Hall, and somebody's working on it, of creating an electronic device, standalone electronic device, I believe, or an application, I'm not sure which, that is actually USCF owned. I would like to see a standalone device.
Yes.
It would seem to me an
That
app
is
by
very
definition is not a standalone device.
Correct.
I was going to make that
That's
point
correct.
myself, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm computer illiterate, so.
I don't think you're that good.
That's why I said I'm not sure which. I believe they're working on a standalone device. Okay.
Oh dear.
One of your I understand what you're saying, but one of your problems is the Rules Committee doesn't have a rule except to say whether you use it or don't use it. It's the USCF itself, outside of the committee structure, that deals with approving these devices.
And how did e-notape get approved as a legal score sheet?
It got submitted,
They got
and the
submitted
committee looked at
followed
it
the
and
guidelines.
tried.
Well, not quite. As I remember the history, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, e-notape running on a specific piece of hardware with a specific operating system was presented to a committee who evaluated it and recommended that that device, that software on that hardware and that operating system was permissible. Somewhere along the line, the next body up the line said, oh, e-notape running on anything, on any device, on any operating system, perfectly okay with us.
Perfect example of unintended consequences.
I'm not so sure.
But that's not in the Rules
Okay,
Committee's.
good point.
And
And how did the Rules Committee not get involved?
e-notate is approved on the Dell PC, Dell Pocket PC. That's the only device it's approved on.
It is approved on the Windows platform.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Yeah, but it's not approved on an iPhone.
Not by
No.
the committee, not by the committee that evaluated it, but by the people, the next level up.
But in any event, there is a third device, by the way, that is approved, but that's the DGT board. Okay, it's that automatic board.
Oh, that, okay.
Okay, under control of the tournament director.
Oh, that's different.
Okay. Now, there have been several people, one in particular that's been bugging me almost endlessly about it, is a program called YNOTAPE. They want it approved on they want that approved on an iPhone, because on an iPhone you can put it in airplane mode and it locks everything out. Okay, but be it that as it may, okay, the guidelines state that we try to follow when YNOTAPE is the only one that has been asked directly, but they have not followed the procedure to get it before the group that's evaluating the device. But they're the next one if another one is going to be approved. Quite frankly, at the time, again, that e-notate was approved, there was no telephone capability on that kind of device. And the guidelines specifically state that the device cannot have telephone capability. Okay, today, even the pocket PC can be on Skype, which has telephone capability. So I don't know. So right now it's kind of grandfathered in. But
It's
Well, that's
grandfathered
other
in,
things.
its capabilities expanded to exceed the rules, and then it was grandfathered in?
well, it was approved. It hasn't been disapproved. Okay.
Is there a procedure for disapproving?
Yeah, good question.
Not that I know of.
You're at it.
You might want to ask the powers that be that, whoever they are, because if memory serves, I'll say the board, but I'm not sure this is the right entity, and I'm sure Ken will remember better than me. Monroy was approved as a legal device before any committee saw it. Yeah, we'll sell this, we'll advertise this. Oh, by the way, we better get this in the rules. I seem to remember that being vaguely the procedure.
I think you're right, because I had some discussions with people about
I
that.
think Monroy was approved because it was already FIDE approved, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I just don't remember any of the
That was one of
details.
at the time, it was one of the rationale for approval.
But it got approved without any input from the Rules Committee whatsoever when it first got.
I would just remind you, the tournament director has the authority to set the conditions, as part
That's
of.
right.
As part of establishing the tournament, so.
If you want to, you can post whatever you want about whatever devices you want. There's some fellow, we haven't seen him around in years, that just banned cell phones before we even got involved in it. There'll be no cell phones in my
In the
event.
room.
In the room. They will not be there. Good luck with that one, pal. Go ahead and collect them.
Yeah.
But that's his problem. You can do that if you want, if you're an
That's
organizer.
the
of TV.
FIDE rule.
Yeah, it's a FIDE rule. They believed him. So he's somewhat right, isn't he?
Okay.
Where did you guys end up yesterday?
Pardon?
Speaking to Tom and Mike, where did that discussion
That just
go?
needed to
Well,
be discussed more.
I mean, we ended up, we need to bring it to the rules
Right,
committee.
yeah, we
because
referred to the
it's-
rules.
So that's fine.
It's really the rules, from my point of view, it's really the
refer
rules
back to
committee's
Celeste.
issue. And if the rules committee doesn't want to deal with it, then we feel like we probably need to deal with it some way in the National Scholastic Tournament Regulation.
And part of the discussion yesterday was certainly advertising what it looks like. I mean, I heard that part.
Yes, that's.
Was to say this is what the screen is supposed to look like, but
Yeah, you could post it on a wall. That's a procedural issue.
but did you all think that went far enough?
Me personally, no. I mean, I'm very disturbed by the fact that people are allowed to bring a cheating device to the board with them. I mean, it's almost to me like a bank puts up a sign and says, please wear ski masks and bring machine guns into this facility, but just don't use them to rob us. We want you to bring this, we want you wearing ski masks, we want you bringing machine guns into our bank, just please don't use them to rob us. From my point of view, that's basically what we're doing. We're encouraging people to bring devices that may have pocket frets loaded on them to the board and use them, but just please don't use the pocket frets that you have loaded on the
We're
device.
not advertising that.
No, Pocket Fritz is
We're
big
we're
sold
selling them the
there.
devices with pocket frets on them.
Yes, that's true.
Yes, USCF Sales is selling the pocket frets.
Yes. They're also selling analog clocks.
They're also
Have we
selling,
made analog clocks illegal?
they're also
It's
selling.
just non-standard.
They're still selling the sets with the green pieces.
So, yeah, the sets with the pink and the green pieces.
That's great.
Okay.
They're pretty.
I want to get to Frank Guadalupe here. He's got a report on the results of the meeting between the FIDE Rules Commission and the U.S. Chess Federation. So I'll turn the floor over to Frank.
Are we delaying this discussion?
It's
Probably.
a motion. It's similar to a motion that was made last year referring to rules in the executive board for discussion and resolution of any electronic devices that was made last year. Unfortunately, the chair of the rules committee forgot it was made last year. And apparently so did the executive board until it was in the agenda again. So we're going to be dealing with it. The rules committee will be dealing with it.
So there's been neither discussion nor resolution.
Correct. Okay. And if you have input, please email me.
By the way, those analog clocks, I made them mandatory at the Senior Open, and they have to use the scripted notation as well. and,
Here, here.
And the funny part is that I didn't have to tell them, they all did. Okay, back on June the 4th through June 4th and 5th, Walter Brown, Bill Goisper, myself, and Tony Reese representing the U.S., and Kyle Jarecki, U.S./FIDE, and Stuart Rubin from England. The six of us were at that meeting to discuss rules or the differences between the FIDE laws of chess and the USCF rules and tournament regulation. There were some good and bad things with the timing of that meeting. Of course, 4th of June was too late for ADMs. And also too early for or rather this meeting here, or the delegates meeting, is before the FIDE Congress that will take place next month. So the timing really was bad, but that said, I think we accomplished a lot. Bill Goisberg can expand if he wishes, as can Walter. One of the good things I see about FIDE is that unlike the USCF, that we're at the mercy of the delegates. No matter what we agree to here, they outnumber us. So we can agree to anything and they'll say no, just because. In FIDE, as some of you may know, once the commissions agree to something, the rest is pretty much a rubber stamp. And you know, assume that we're the commission here, we'll have it made if that was the case, but it is not for us. So based on that meeting, Stuart Rubin made some recommendations to change the FIDE laws of chess. And anybody that is interested in that whole document, about 30 pages, you can give me your email, I can send it to you. It might be already, have you seen that on the website, Saban?
Which one?
The new laws of chess?
I got a copy of it, an email from
An email,
Commission.
yeah. But basically,
Oh no, it's on the it's in the Congress annexes.
in the annexes, yeah. But basically, FIDE has, at least through Rubin's Stewart, and again, if the commission agrees, it's almost a done deal, to accept some of the things we do. In turn, we have to accept one thing, and that is that come July the 1st next year, if you want to have a FIDE-rated event, you have to have FIDE rules.
That's not what this says. This says July 1st, 2012.
It should be 13.
Well, I typed it. I made the typo. It's 13. That's correct. Yes, it is next year. I talked to Tim and David earlier, and I said, look, we can do this one of two ways. We can go through delegate motions, make changes to the rule book, or we can just leave it up to the tournament directors to figure out if you have to abide by the FIDE rules, then you better know the FIDE rules. And at your tournament, you have to announce that FIDE rules apply. So I don't know what is best.
The proposal for the FIDE rule section of the rule book, which is totally obsolete anyway,
Right.
is that we just refer with a link to the FIDE handbook and the rules section of the handbook. And that way it will always be up to date. So,
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Yes.
Tom.
Frank, I have a question. If there's a multi-section tournament and one section is FIDE rated and another section is not, would all sections have to be FIDE rules?
No.
Just the section or
Just the
sections that's
FIDE rated section.
Okay.
Not
Yeah.
the K section.
Yeah, not the scholastic section. Yeah.
The under 1,000s, no, you don't have to do that.
You couldn't merge a non-FIDE with a FIDE either.
No. And you know, I'll tell you what, not only, at least what I do is, not only in FIDE rated event do I use FIDE rules, I also use an approved FIDE pairing program. I use Swiss Master myself. Swiss Seas or WinTD, at least at this point, they're not up to date with the rules.
Though SwissSys has applied to become an official program. It's in the process
Yeah.
of FIDE evaluating it, is that
Yeah,
correct?
it still has problems.
It
In
still
fact,
has some bugs.
in fact, what I do is I run
Imagine
both SwissSys and Swiss Master concurrently. And invariably, there are gonna be differences, and when I check the differences, and I check the floats as they call them, no float, not the same float up, whatever, within 2 rounds, whatever, SwissSys is wrong. So, I kind of like what David said, which is referral to the FIDE rules, FIDE law suggests, if you're going to run a FIDE program.
The delegates already passed that, right? To remove the FIDE section from our rule book, or just refer?
Well, there's a link.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's already in the.
The bottom line is the town director needs to know where to go to.
We'll put it in the amendment.
To do that. That said, I put a few things here just in case that was not what was agreed to. And some of the differences that Stuart says, I suggest you put that in the USCF rules. One is the promotion. When in the USCF rules, you can place the piece, and as long as you have not released that piece, you can still take it out and put some other piece on the board, and that can lead to a person just going like this and figure out, wait a minute, oops, it's a stalemate, so I better put a rook instead. Okay? So the FIDE rule is that once that piece touches the board, you cannot change. So I don't know how you feel about that.
Frank, are you saying that you are proposing to change the USCF rule in this case?
That's correct. That's why in my page here, 9D would be a delegate motion, if that's what you guys want to do.
For all USCF events, just to clarify, right?
They were passed around the room, is there any left?
That's correct.
The chair here doesn't have a copy.
Well, no,
I don't know.
he doesn't have a
All
copy.
right. I make 20, I didn't figure out something.
I'm giving it up here.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
No, I was going to.
So
Somebody doesn't have a copy.
So the question is whether would we bring in line the FIDE and USCF rules, or whether we just, again, continue with telling the USCF term director, no, we go by rules that we have in place now, but if you want to have a FIDE rated event, then you got to go to the FIDE rules. Or we can do it this way, which means we change it for everybody.
I'm in favor of making the rules as similar as possible, okay? But there's a lot of opposition to that.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yes. Ken.
Frank, since you raised that specific rule as one to discuss,
Well, that's one of them.
I'd like to drill down and dive in on that one.
Okay.
Someone remind me, what is the current USCF and what is the current FIDE rule on simply moving a piece? If I pick up a piece and touch it to a square, does FIDE declare the move to be determined?
No,
But only for promotion?
correct.
Okay.
So it's
So
an
now,
inconsistency.
our Washington, we have the Washington Open and Memorial Day weekend, Washington Class and Thanksgiving weekend. And the Washington Open, the open section is fee rated, and then the class, the master expert section fee rated. So I assume these rules would cover that then?
Well, the FIDE rules.
The FIDE rules do, yes.
I mean, the PD rules would cover that.
Run your
Correct.
tournaments according to FIDE rules, and it's not a problem.
Now, you don't have to. I mean, we run many of our major tournaments. I think Bill runs all his tournaments using USCF rules, but FIDE rated. But come 1 July 2013, he will not be able to do that.
We're already using the FIDE rules for the ones with norms.
I'm sorry?
The ones with norms already.
The ones with norms, not all.
That's correct. The one with norms already, you have to use
Yeah,
FIDE
I
rules.
wanted to point out, this looks like a summary of proposed changes in the USCF rules
Correct.
as a result of the meeting.
That's correct.
But there also are some proposed changes in the FIDE rules that Stuart Rubin thought would be a good idea, and of course, we don't know if FIDE will adopt them, but I don't want to give the impression that this meeting just resulted in
No, absolutely not. And that's exactly why.
Plenty of proposed changes to the FIDE rules.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I said earlier that
that route I think is easier because if the commission, the Term Rules and Regulations Commission agrees to the rules, to the changes proposed by Stuart, it's pretty much a done deal. I mean, at the FIDE Congress, they asked all of us to vote on things, and